I've come out today to Minley to explore, but whilst I'm here, I want to go over a topic that's about to become much more important to you, and it's something that kills people every year who enjoy being outdoors. I'm talking about road safety whilst on country lanes, and the reason it's about to become so much more important is that pretty soon it's going to be dark by the late afternoon. And so if you go out for a long walk, there's a pretty good chance at least part of it will be in poor visibility. In 2022, 385 pedestrians were killed in the UK and 6,000 seriously injured. And on country roads specifically, about 2 people are killed and 14 seriously injured every single week. So let's look at this and, more importantly, see what we can do about it. Now, the most obvious thing is we've got to be seen, but that is not the only reason why people get hit by cars. When you look at the statistics, the most common reason that people get hit is because either the driver or the pedestrian weren't paying enough attention. And while we can't control how much attention the driver is giving, what we can do is make sure that we remain vigilant so that we can ensure that we're not leaving our safety in the hands of the driver. One of the most important things we can do is walk facing oncoming traffic. Now in the UK, we drive on the left, so that means I want to be walking on the right. And what this does is it means any traffic that's going to be approaching in my lane is going to be coming facing me, and that way I have a much better chance of being able to react to it. Another measure we can take is if we're approaching a right-hand bend where it's a blind bend and you don't have line of sight on what is around that bend, then rather than walk in the right-hand lane, what I want to do is cross into the left-hand lane and take the bend on the outside edge, because that gives me kind of more time to react to a vehicle and also gives the driver more time to react as well. So what I would do, I would approach in the right-hand lane as normal at a distance that is enough for the vehicle to stop, which is longer than this. This is for demonstration purposes. Check both ways, cross the road, and then approach, go around this bend, taking that outside edge. I can see around the corner now and I can see it clear. And going back to that point that we can't control how much attention a driver is paying, what is definitely within our scope of control is if we can absolutely maximize the amount of attention that they do have by really standing out and making sure that we're seen. And when it comes to being seen, we've got 3 main things in our arsenal. We've got high-vis, we've got reflectors, and then we've got lights. High-vis can make a real difference when it's kind of gloomy type weather. When it's still light enough to see, but it's definitely not bright, then high-vis can really help you stand out. Now I'm just wearing a high-vis belt here, and as you can see, this makes quite a big difference into how visible I am, especially with this kind of cratey brown top and kind of the forest floor. It really does stand out. But the key thing about high-vis is you really need a decent coverage in order for it to be effective. And while this can definitely help, and I would wear this typically on my rucksack as a kind of a band around my rucksack to give me coverage from the rear, something like a whole rucksack cover or a waistcoat is ideal. And the more coverage you have, the more you're going to stand out. And one of the great things about high-vis is it's really cheap and it's very light as well. So I think the waistcoat was about £4, and you can get the belt, again, I think it was about £4.50. So they're really inexpensive, they weigh next to nothing, and it's easy to just throw in a pack in case you need one. And as effective as high-vis is, once it gets dark, it becomes much less effective. And that's where reflectors come in. And a lot of high-vis has reflectors sewn into it anyway. But one of the great things about reflectors is you only need a small patch to make a huge difference. And something like this is enough to really make a difference in how you're seen at night time. And you'll know that if you've ever seen a cat's eye reflected back to you in your car headlights. The downside that both high-vis and reflectors share is that they're both passive measures. They rely on light from other sources reaching you and reflecting back towards the driver. And at night time, when you're relying on reflectors, that might not be good enough. For example, if a driver is approaching you around a bend, even when he has a clear line of sight to you, because his light, which might be the only source of light available, is shining forwards, it might not reach you in time as it goes around that bend. And that's where it's really worth having an active measure like a light. Now the ones I use are things like this. And this is just a simple bike light. And the reason I like these is they're reasonably cheap. They are usually weatherproof as well. And if they've been well designed, they can be viewed from different angles. And that's really important because your driver might not be approaching directly from behind. Now this one also just clips, directly into the molly on my webbing, and that makes it really easy to use. Once I've got this on, I can be seen for hundreds and hundreds of meters. And one final thing is, as well as looking after your physical well-being by making sure that you're seen, just remember that at this time of year, when there's a lack of daylight, once the clocks go back, then a lot of us start to suffer from seasonal depression as well, while our mood changes because we're not getting enough daylight. So if you do start feeling a little bit low, just remember that and be kind to yourself. Thanks very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.